All right, how we doing, everybody? I'm Andy Malfrey. This is Drag the Lake. Let's talk about the new album by Touché Amoré, Spiral in a Straight Line. I just got done listening to it. You can go watch the full album reaction on the DTL R&R channel. So this is just my initial thoughts after my first listen to this album. This is not a comprehensive review or blah, blah, blah. This is just general first thoughts. And I got to say, as a longtime Touché Amoré fan, well, they were fun. They were funny for me because they were a band. I think when what was their big song that a lot of people first heard them on? It was Till Day. So yeah, Parting the Seas Between Brightness and Me, that album. I think I heard them a little bit here and there, and I was like, all right, these guys are kind of cool, but it just wasn't like the necessary phase I was in at the time, so I didn't necessarily get hardcore into them. And then it was something about just getting older, just, life hitting you in the fucking face a little bit harder and shit like that, dealing with regrets and fuck ups and all that other shit. The older I got, Touché Amoré became a much more vital band to my existence. And I want to say over the past couple years is when I really started connecting with them and really started getting into them on a much deeper level and shit. So I want to say in the past 4 to 5 years is when I really started to be a big Touché Amoré fan. And as a much bigger Touché Amoré fan, hearing this release, it's got me in a good mood. It's a really solid release. It definitely, I say that the best way, after my first initial listen, the best way to sort of describe this album is it gives you all the standard things you want from a Touché Amoré album. You go through it and it's very reminiscent of a lot of shit that you've heard from these fellas, but that's not to say it's sort of it's stale and bland, because a lot of bands sort of do that. They have their strong they sort of come out strong on the first 4 releases, and then you have those bands that sort of stick around and they just keep pumping out albums every 2 to 3 years, and they're never bad, but they don't really do too much new, so they just kind of, the later albums sort of just bleed into each other and shit like that. And I don't feel like I get this from Touché Amoré. It's very impressive. I don't know exactly how many albums in that they are. But wait, let me pull up just albums, because I know they've done re-releases and shit like that. So yeah, they had the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They did some re-releases, 6, and this is their 7th album. So, and they've been around since '08. So that's 15 years or so, give or take. Carry the 1, carry the 2, give or take a few years or so. So they've been around for a while, and I know bands like this, when you've really hit that point in your band where you've made it past 10 years, you're pushing 15, you're coming up on 20, stuff like that. It's hard to sort of give your fans a new fresh expression of yourself. A lot of bands at this point, maybe they didn't make it big, but they've hit a point where they've become financially stable. It's the general woes and the general pain in their life has been mitigated to a more constructive degree. And because I think music in general, some of the strongest stuff comes from, some of the strongest music we hear comes from that level of youthful angst, where in genres like this. So genres like this don't always translate that well into the older age. Once you start hitting your 30s, or I don't know exactly how old they are. I'm assuming they're all in their general 30s and shit like that, possibly pushing 40 and stuff. So when you get to that age range, some of these, you're so used to producing music in a certain type of way. It's hard to translate some of this stuff into older age. But I think Touché Amoré has shown that they've structured their band in a type of way that they can keep themselves, with every release, keep themselves pretty fresh and keep themselves expressing them in an interesting way, and that shows through on here. And also, just with a big thing that shown through on this album is the production level. Is, like I said, it hits a lot of the basis that you want from a Touché Amoré album, but a lot of it just comes across in a more mature manner. It comes across in a more mature manner. It comes across in like the production is very clear. I personally like that a lot. I know a lot of people sort of go for this wall of sound, which is it's not bad, you know what I mean? It's the reason it's like a legendary production technique. It's not like bad, but like I know for me, I'm a fan of like the crazier, more chaotic, more hectic music, but I'm also like a musician. You know, I haven't really played the drums in a while, but you know, I was going strong from like fucking like 4th grade to my college years and shit like that. So you don't just undo like that musician brain that you have. So while I want to hear this big wall of sound, at the same time, as a musician, I want to hear the distinct features of every instrument going on. Like, I know for me, I'm a drummer. I was listening, I forget, it was the Chubby and the Gang album I just listened to, which was an amazing album. But there was minor things here and there from a production standpoint that kind of bummed me out, because as a drummer, I always like when the drums are shining through clear and precise, and you can hear them really precisely and clearly. I always love that shit. And I remember that was like a thing that was lacking on the Chubby and the Gang album. There was a lot of cool shit going on in the drums, and I couldn't distinctly point them out here and there. It was getting a little muddied. On this album, everything going on was very clear and locked in, and just from a production standpoint, I personally really appreciate that. I really like when bands do that, but overall, it had a strong balance to it. It was the pacing of it was really great. I always talk about like hit them hard for the first 3 or 4, bring it down energy-wise, and then build that back up, and then kind of have a sort of grand resolve at the end. And they stuck to that more or less. It's not like a strict pattern that I say every band has to use. It's just a general framework that I think can work. And Touché Amoré kind of sticks to it. Now, they go down in the middle on the song Force of Habit, and then they come back at you pretty hardcore. But then towards the end, around song number 8, I want to say, The Finalist, Subversive, the Glue, and then Goodbye for Now, they still hit you pretty damn hard at parts, but it adds this nice resolve that if you're listening to this full album from start to finish, it provides you that dismount you need when you're going through a full album experience. So production on it was really great. Album structure was really great. I think I said this earlier, but the thing I always love is I like when bands give you what you kind of like are expecting from them, and then at the same time give you a solid mix of new shit to keep you interested. And then they do that. And then another staple of Touché Amoré is just like the very strong lyrical content. It is kind of aggressive, and it's loud and it's screaming, so you may not catch it all the time here and there. That's why repeat listens for this band are always a lovely experience. But even on this first listen, I had parts of it where I was like, oh god damn. If you watch the full album reaction, there's like 2 or 3 parts where I kind of like pause, and it just makes me like reflect on life and shit like that. So lyrical content is really strong, music is strong, production strong, album structure is real strong. Yeah, man, I think this is if you never listened to Touché Amoré, this is a great album to check out. But if you've been listening to Touché Amoré the whole time, it's you're not going to be disappointed. It's a great time. It's a good album. I implore all of you watching this to go check it out. I also implore you to like and subscribe. Have a great day. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Have a good one. Be about it. Peace.